What's up, Zoo? It's Gordy. Happy Sunday. Here we go into week number 5 of our counterculture series, during which we have just been walking through the Sermon on the Mount that Jesus gives his disciples each week, going verse by verse, talking through the advice that Jesus gives on how to live life different and counter to the culture of the world at this time. And this week, the passage is this: Matthew chapter 5, verse 7, sweet and simple. It just says, "Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy." 2 nights ago, I watched the greatest chick flick of all time. All right, I watched it's filled with romance, it's filled with love triangles, it's filled with cute little love songs. It's amazing. It's this beautiful chick flick movie called Gladiator. And during one of the scenes in Gladiator, you got this guy, he's Gladiator, named Maximus. All right, Russell Crowe, hunk of a man, great guy, perfect main actor in a chick flick. He's out in the Gladiator arena, and he's battling for his life. And you might be saying, that doesn't sound like a chick flick at all. You're right, it's not. Don't. If you're a girl watching this and you got really excited about watching Gladiator, maybe don't go do that. But I was being sarcastic. It's very guy-friendly movie. But he's out in the middle of the arena battling for his life, and there's blood, there's killing, there's violence, everything a guy wants in a movie. All right, and he defeats the undefeated Gladiator champion. And in the process, he's had to kill some tigers, and he's had to do all kinds of awesome sword fighting moves. And it's a pretty amazing scene. Every guy, their heart starts beating. They start to freak out. You start to sweat, even though you know he's going to win. And you freak out, and you watch, and you're just in awe of his skill and the intensity of the scene. And he defeats the guy. And the guy is injured enough that he can't really move. He's just laying on the ground waiting for his death. And if you know Gladiator culture, when you injure your opponent, what do? You wait for the crowd, for Caesar to give the sentence. All right? Thumbs up, you live. Thumbs down, done, over. Sorry, too bad. Shouldn't have been Gladiator. And so he defeats his opponent, and his opponent is laying there bleeding on the ground, waiting for his sentence. And Maximus looks up at Caesar, and Caesar, in the most dramatic fashion, raises his hand like this. And, it pans through the crowd, and it shows the drama and everybody cheering, and it shows the poor guy who's waiting to hear his death sentence on the ground. And Caesar slowly takes his thumb. He goes like this, which means death. And in a dramatic moment, you see Maximus, see that he picks up his axe, and he goes to raise it over his head. And he just tosses it to the side. And he doesn't kill the guy who he just defeated. He defies Caesar's wishes. And it's a dramatic scene, and the crowd goes crazy, and the crowd starts chanting his name. And it's just an amazing, amazing, beautiful chick flick moment where all the girls are going, "Oh, they're so in love." No, it's the opposite. All right? Every guy goes, "Yes, that's amazing." But in this moment, in this scene of Gladiator, we see a great example of mercy. It's funny because I wasn't even planning on using this at the beginning of my sermon until I watched this a couple nights ago, and I realized, hey, this goes along perfectly because we see an example of mercy. All right, when Caesar goes like this with his hand, what does the guy who's been defeated deserve and have coming to him? Now, technically, I know he's not really forced. He's forced into fighting, but by the rules of gladiator fighting, this man on the arena deserves death. Maximus has every right to kill him, and yet he chooses not to. And we see an amazing, perfect description of what mercy is. You see, you look up the definition of mercy in the Bible, and it's a Greek word, ilios. I don't know if I said that right, but that's what it looks like, ilios. And I know you're sitting there going, "Dang, Gordy, you speak Greek. I'm super impressed by you. You're amazing. You're way smarter than I thought." You're right. I know I am. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. I mainly just looked that up so I could impress you, okay? Don't ask me anything else in Greek, okay? But this word ilios What it means is basically the opposite of wrath or justice. Wrath or justice, and especially shown towards those who are seen as miserable or afflicted. It's basically everything that is opposite of the culture and world that we live in today, because we live in a culture and world today that says you got to do what you got to do to get ahead, to make sure life's fair for you. The justice system is in place to make sure that there is fair punishment, there's fair treatment for people that might deserve it. We live in a world today that is so obsessed with everything being fair, that mercy is so rare. That this idea of Elias is so different than what we're used to. When we do something wrong, when we do something bad and we're caught, what do we expect? We expect punishment. We expect consequence. Because that is what the world we live in says needs to happen. When we watch the news and we see somebody do something wrong, we expect to see them get punished. And in fact, if they don't get punished, if they get let off easy, we get upset about it. Inside we go, what the heck? That person deserves so much worse. That person deserves a worse penalty. That person deserves a worse consequence. We get upset by it because justice was not served. We go, that person doesn't deserve mercy? Are you kidding me? They need so much worse. Do you know what they did? And this term in the Bible, Elias, goes, no, it's the opposite of that. Especially to those who are miserable or afflicted. Especially to those who don't deserve it. Especially to the worst of the worst. That is what mercy is. You see, mercy, and it's made very clear in the scene of Gladiator that I just described to you. Mercy is not getting what you deserve. Mercy is not getting what you deserve. And what I mean by that is not getting what you deserve in a good sense. Like your brother says, hey, if you do my chores, I'll give you $10. Or if your parents say, hey, if you do this, you can have this or that, or you can go hang out with your friends or this or that, and then they don't follow up with it. See, that's not getting what you deserve, and you get upset by it because you go, man, I deserved it. I worked for that. I earned that. And you're deciding not to give it to me? Like, I am upset. I am all up in arms about that. Are you kidding me? That's not what is meant by mercy. Mercy means you do something wrong. You do something where you very knowingly know that if you're caught, there's consequences. There's punishment waiting for you. And mercy steps in and goes, no, you don't get that. No, we're going to pardon you from that. No, we're going to let you off the hook this time. We're going to allow you to get out of that. I remember as a kid growing up and in my household, we had very serious consequences if we said certain words that weren't appropriate. Stupid in our household when we were little was a very serious word. Okay, if you said the word stupid, which I apologize for saying it on this video, I'm just using it for the story. But if you said that word, oh, it was over for you. You were in so much trouble. And I remember as a little kid playing with my older sister, and I don't know how old I was, but anywhere from 3 to 5. And I called her stupid because I was upset because, she just wasn't playing the way we were supposed to play. In my 3-year-old brain, I said, no, older sister, this is not how it's supposed to be done. You're stupid. That's what I said. And I remember getting my mouth washed out with soap. And I remember immediately after I said that word, I knew, number one, my older sister, she was going to use this as an opportunity to immediately run and tell my parents what I had said. There was not a chance that she was going to show mercy to me and go, no, it's okay, Gordy. Like, it's fine. I forgive you. I'm not going to mention it to mom and dad. No, she did what every older sister would do at 5 years old and run and tell the parents. Because in her mind, she's like, how dare you, Gordy? And I am going to cherish every second of you getting your mouth washed out with soap. And my parents, needing to teach me a lesson, they washed my mouth out with soap. And it was awful. And it was just one of those moments where immediately I knew what was coming to me as soon as those words came out of my mouth. And I think so often in life we do stuff. We make mistakes. And immediately when we do it, we go, snap. If I am caught for this, I'm in so much trouble. I know exactly the punishment that's coming to me. I know exactly what awaits me. And we live through life judging, can I get away with it? Can I not? What's the punishment? Is it worth it? What's the consequence? Because mercy doesn't even run through our brains. We expect some form of punishment, consequence, justice to be served to us for our actions. And yet, in this story, this entire book is filled with mercy. Genesis chapter 3, maybe you've read it, maybe you know what happens. In Genesis chapter 3, it talks about the actions that Adam and Eve take that separate us as human beings from the perfection of God. It's rebellion, it's sin. And from that point on, we are separated from our Creator. And the rest of this Bible, Genesis chapter 3 in my Bible, is on page, it is on page 3. 3 pages into this giant book with all of these pages, 3 pages in, we've messed up as people. We have rebelled. We have done something that deserves justice. And now every page after, let's see how many total pages there are in this thing. Should have prepared this ahead of time, but I didn't. There's 1,340 pages. So take away 3, 1,337, which I know you're impressed that I know how to do math. You didn't think I could do that either. 1,337 pages after the sin of mankind is setting up a story of mercy that God has for us. Because the punishment of sin is death. All right, our sin makes us so that we can't live in the perfection of our Creator anymore. It separates us from God. And so God says, let me write the rest of this book that tells you about my love for you and tells me about my mercy for you. Saying, I'm not going to give you what you so deserve. And that is so opposite of the world we live in today. It is so opposite of our culture, because culture today, when somebody does something against me that I don't like, I do whatever I possibly can to make sure it is fair for me, to make sure that they get their justice. When somebody does something to you at school, when somebody says something bad about you, what do you do about it? Maybe you don't go tell a teacher or your parents because you don't want to be known as a tattletale, but I bet you do something to get your revenge. I bet you do something to make sure you feel like you've had justice. Whether that is talking bad about them in return, whether that is what you do through text message, whether that is whatever it is that you do something to get your justice, because that's the way we work as humans. That's the way this world is. We go, no, I'm not going to allow somebody to do something towards me without getting my justice. Mercy doesn't exist to me. And yet this whole Bible goes completely opposite of that, because it goes, do you know what you did to the perfect Creator of this world? Do you know what you deserve? Do you know the punishment that awaits you? And it's not coming. The most famous passage in the Bible describes that. John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life. It tells you the mercy right there. It says God so loved us, so loved you, so loved me, that he gave his only Son to die on the cross for us, because he knew there was a punishment waiting. He knew that as a just God, he couldn't let it slide, that someone had to pay the punishment. That punishment was Jesus, because he said, I have mercy on you. And our world goes, I don't understand that idea. I don't understand how that makes sense. Because our world goes, no, don't give mercy to other people. Get justice. Make sure they get consequences. Make sure they get punishment. Because it makes us feel better. When we see somebody else punishment for what they've done, it makes us feel better. And the crazy part is we want other people to get punishment, to get consequence, to get justice, until it applies to us. And then we go, man, maybe a little mercy right now would be nice. Like, are you feeling merciful? Like, it would be pretty nice to receive mercy. It's like if we were to collectively rob a bank and we got caught for doing it, and they lined us up and they asked me, Gordy, what do you think should happen to these other people that you robbed a bank with, all equally guilty in robbing this bank? And if I was to say in court, man, I think they should get 20 years in prison. I think they should get an extreme, harsh sentence. What am I actually doing? I'm convicting myself. I'm giving my own punishment to the court. I am saying to the judge, you should give them 20 years in prison. And in a way, because I've done just as much as they have, I should also receive 20 years in prison. It doesn't make sense. You're not going to do that. I'm going to be like, man, you should probably let them off easy. I don't think what they did is that bad. You should have mercy on them. Because knowing in my brain that if you have mercy on them, you should also have mercy on me, because we're all guilty of the same thing. When we sit in front of God and we pray, God, punish those people. Give them the consequences they deserve. Do you know how bad of people they are? What we are doing is we are convicting ourselves. We are sentencing ourselves because we're going, God, they're so guilty. But in the same way, we're just as guilty. We have also sinned against God. We have also done things. And so instead, we should understand the mercy that God has given us and realize that we didn't deserve it. We didn't earn it. Know what was coming to us, which was death for our sin. And understand that we've been given mercy, so we should also give mercy to others as well. The best way I've ever heard this described is from our campus pastor, TJ. He has a pretty funny example of it. He tells a story that goes like this. He says, imagine that, and it works for you guys because you're in junior high, none of you have your license. Imagine that you decide, hey, I'm going to take my parents' car for a joyride, right? You just feel like it. I'm gonna take my parents' car. I'm gonna drive it through town. I'm gonna see how fast this baby goes. So you get the keys, jump inside your parents' car, and you take it out for a spin. You're driving around. You're blasting the music. You're having the time of your life. And you take a turn too quick. And as you take that turn, you don't realize that there's like a nice, cute little old lady crossing the street. I know this is taking a serious turn. Okay. And you can't react in time. You hit this old lady. Now, for the sake of the story, not to be violent, let's say old lady survives, okay? But you still hit an old lady crossing the road. And let's say that all of this was seen by a cop. What's going to happen? A cop's going to pull you over. You're going to get in serious trouble because, number one, you're driving too fast. Number two, you're driving without a license. Number three, you hit an old lady. You are in so much trouble. This is like one after another. You are caught dead. Now let's imagine you, 12, 13-year-old, you just shaking in your car, so scared because you know you're done for. This cop slowly approaches your car. Roll down the window. Probably makes you get out of the car for what you've done. And let's imagine that this cop looks you in the eyes, knowing that you are going to, because you've just hit an old lady too, you're probably going to serve some time for what you've done. Let's imagine this cop looks at you and goes, hey, don't worry about it. I'll take your place. What? Like, in your brain, you would be like, no, that doesn't make sense. That would never happen. You are listening to the story going, Gordy, this sounds ridiculous. You're right. It is ridiculous. Because, let's be honest, if you took your parents' car, you'd probably crash it in the mailbox and never even make it out of the driveway, okay? And the cop would never take your place in prison for what you did. And now let's imagine this story gets even more ridiculous. Let's imagine that this cop, he doesn't just have any normal cop car. He's driving like one of them fancy police Lamborghinis, okay? Which I hear exist. I've never seen one. I don't really know, okay? Let's imagine he's driving a police Lamborghini. And he goes, yeah, I know that you quite clearly showed that you couldn't drive very well, but not only am I going to take your place in prison, but let's say he pulls out his police Lamborghini keys and he hands them to you and says, now I'm gifting you this amazing, fancy police car Lamborghini. You're sitting there on the other side of the screen right now, listening to this story going, Gordy, you have lost your mind. Gordy, this is the most ridiculous story that I've ever heard. No, it's not. because that is what we see in the Bible. No, Jesus wasn't driving a police Lamborghini. No, you didn't hit an old lady. But your sin, what you've done, me and you, we don't deserve what Jesus did for us. He said, not only am I going to forgive you, because it's one thing to forgive somebody and then they still have to serve a punishment, all right? Like, I can forgive somebody for rear-ending me, but they still have to pay for the damage, right? That's forgiveness, but they still have to pay what they did. But not only does God forgive us, but he says, I'm going to take the punishment for you. You're going to have mercy. You're not going to get what you deserve. And then I'm going to give you grace on top of that, which is getting something that you don't deserve. Mercy is not getting something that you do deserve. Grace is getting something that you don't deserve, which would be the policeman handing you the keys to his fancy police car Lamborghini. That's Jesus going, not only am I dying in your spot, but now you have the keys to heaven as well. That is mercy, and that is grace on top of it. It sounds so ridiculous, but that gets the point across of what Jesus has done for us. And so in Matthew 5:7, it's Jesus sitting there going, let me tell you, blessed are the merciful, for they shall have mercy given to them. It's Jesus going, you have no right. You didn't earn my mercy. You didn't earn my death on the cross. I gave it to you freely. So who are you to sit there and cling to it and go, I'm not going to give it to others? I promise you guys, life gets so much easier when you decide to let go. When you decide to not hold on to the things people have done against you. When you understand that God gave you mercy so you can freely give it to people as well because it cost you nothing. And it shouldn't cost them anything as well. Hope that brings you encouragement. I hope that frees you from maybe that bitterness, that revenge you're feeling, that desire that you need to get back at people. Hopefully that allows you to love them instead. Hopefully that allows you to give them mercy instead. Hope you guys have a great Sunday. We'll see you next time.